Have you ever had a coworker who seemed to have difficulty working with a certain group of people but wasn't really aware of it? Or has somebody ever given you that kind of feedback where you weren't aware of why or what was going on necessarily? Well, it may be a case of what's called an unconscious bias, a term that many of you have heard before. An unconscious bias is a belief that we have below the surface that can have an adverse impact on certain groups. And these groups can be people who may have a different work style than me, who may be a different gender, who may be of a different ethnicity, or who may have a different thinking style. Those are just some examples. Specific examples of an unconscious bias could be, for example, if there was a woman and I believed below the surface that women didn't necessarily make good leaders. The result might be that I might not promote them or give them leadership opportunities. Another example could be that I could have an unconscious bias that young workers aren't in it for the long haul or aren't planning to stay with the organization for a long time. The behavior might be that I wouldn't invest in training in them. Obviously, these examples of unconscious bias can have a counterproductive impact in the workplace. And the question becomes, how do I address them for myself or help to coach others through resolution? Well, I'm going to share with you a 5-step process to do this. The first step is to acknowledge that there's an issue, challenge, or difficulty. If someone has shared that feedback with me, or I shared that feedback with somebody, making myself open or helping to make somebody else open to the fact there is some kind of a challenge here is really the first step. The second step is to take responsibility for resolving it myself. One rule around resolving any kind of issue around unconscious bias is that I have 100% control over what I do and 0% control over what other people do. And so if I take responsibility for resolving it myself, I can quickly change the dynamic of how we're working together in a situation. The third thing, and this is a really powerful step, is to find someone who represents the bias to work with me as a peer coach. So if I'm having difficulty, for example, working with young people, then finding a young person who can help walk me through what the expectations are of young people in the workplace nowadays, how I can interact with them differently to create some kind of productive relationship, what types of steps I can take is a really powerful part of the process. The fourth step is to create a challenging set of behaviors to invalidate that belief. So not comfort zone behaviors, not behaviors that are going to produce the same type of thing. It may just look different, but may produce the same type of thing that's happened in the past. But a challenging set of behaviors that I know are going to have a different result. And I can work with my peer coach to set that up. Finally, the last step is to meet again with my coach to get feedback, share progress, and use that interaction as an accountability check for myself. I know that if I'm going to meet with somebody 5 weeks from now, it's a much greater likelihood that I'm actually going to work to put into place the types of steps that I've talked with them about. Unconscious bias is a large issue in the workplace, but one that is within our power to address through this easy 5-step process.